It's international week. There's no Premier League to talk about. There's not even really any international football to talk about yet. So I am going to deliver you guys a headline that goes like this. And it's one for the nerds. It's one for the boffins. You're just going to have to get involved. UEFA give green light to domestic games abroad.
Ooh.
In a landmark ruling, UEFA have approved plans to allow domestic games across European leagues to be played abroad. Now, this relates specifically to Villarreal and Barcelona facing each other in Miami in December, and AC Milan playing Como in Perth, Australia, I think shortly after that. UEFA have approved plans for this to happen. Now, the devil's in the detail here before I bring you guys in, because UEFA are saying they're opposed to this happening, domestic league games happening abroad, but they've had to approve it because there's no legal framework provided by FIFA to stop it. So what they're saying is, if they rejected these requests, there could be a legal challenge. If UEFA then lose the legal challenge, it could set a precedent for domestic games to happen wherever they want, whenever they want, and they don't want to do that. So they've reluctantly approved this to happen in lieu of some proper legislation coming presumably at a later date. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
We're all together?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about this, Jim?
Well, I think what's interesting about it is that it looks like UEFA are going to reluctantly let these two games happen and then try everything they can to make sure it's impossible for it to ever happen again. That seems to be sort of between the lines what's in there. They've not quite kind of stated it that explicitly.
You could get the T-shirt saying, I was there when Villarreal played Barcelona in Miami. From a collector's item.
It sounds like a Mad Lib, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah.
AC Milan, Como in Perth, Australia. Why not?
It's absolutely just baffling
They did
decisions
it
all
at
round on
Tombola,
that.
UEFA headquarters. Como, I've got some good news and some bad news.
Well, I mean, I suppose if we cut straight to the actual kind of sporting impact of that, all of those teams are at a huge disadvantage with particularly the Serie A teams, with a journey to essentially the other side of the world mid-season, which nobody else will suffer from
Unless they play in the Conference League, presumably.
Yeah. And that's a kind of unique and new problem, right? Because the idea is that everyone's on a level playing field, and in a sporting sense, these two teams are massively hampered. Now, I presume that they will benefit from it financially to some degree, but that's not the same thing, is it? And so the integrity of the whole thing is ludicrous straight away. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who kind of sort of immediately get on board with anything that's vaguely sort of disruptor shaped and say, oh, well, actually, what's so bad about it? But I think straight away you're undermining the kind of consistency of your own league by doing that. Yeah. So I understand why UEFA want to resist that.
But do you think they actually do want to resist it, or do you think they're just playing both sides and trying to be the good guys?
I think they have messed up a little bit. I was presenting that they're trying to resist it because it's a bit like the Death Star. It's like this incredible, impressive moon-like structure, but please don't shoot in that little hole over there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've shown their hand when they probably haven't needed to, because this is all stems from something that arose a year ago with a company called Relevant Sports, who's owned by the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross, who was in a legal battle with the US Soccer Federation and FIFA about trying to host matches in the US.
Yeah.
And so because of that, FIFA have basically had it, or FIFA and UEFA by proxy, have basically had a year to try and work out if there are any loopholes and what they might need to do to change them. And they haven't done that.
And is this happening because, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'll just put it as a question anyway, because I'm the host today. So it's a luxury I've got. People don't got to listen to me boring on, they think. This is because, say, Serie A, but particularly La Liga, are essentially super jealous of the export value of the Premier League, right?
I think this is a factor for sure.
They can't compete with the revenues and the impact that the Premier League has. So they're looking to do things like this to shore up their support and their fandom in other parts of the world. Now, of course, the Premier League are rapacious as they come, so they want to do it as well for their own kind of ends.
They're currently saying they don't want to do that.
Sure, but they tried to do it in the past. They tried to do it in the
exactly,
past.
yeah.
Right? And so this is why this is happening. And UEFA, I'm not trying to sound sympathetic to UEFA. I'm just wondering if UEFA are thinking, right, how do we actually stop this if there's no precedent, there's no legislation in place? Because what I would also say is that we have a situation where I feel like it's an open and shut thing, which is if you are a wealthy owner of a club, right? And I know Barcelona's ownership is slightly different, so maybe you do use a Premier League, or actually you could use Milan because they're kind of owned in a different way to Barcelona, using it in a kind of traditional kind of way, I suppose, or as it's become. You should have to absolutely understand that although it would be nice to do this, the same way it would be nice to do a lot of things, you're a Serie A club. Mm-hmm. This is the start and finish of it. This happens in Italy. This is the Italian league. Now, I know it's nice to have all those potential revenues over there, but this is what you signed up for. So stop fucking about.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the open and shut thing I would say. But then, of course, there's probably freedom of trade and kind of restrictions and stuff legally that means it's not quite as simple as that.
This appears to be the case, doesn't it? That essentially FIFA, more so than UEFA, kind of didn't think to put anything in place to protect this, possibly because obviously, UEFA are more responsible for club competition, and there's a lot of tension between them at the moment. It does. The worrying thing about the precedent that this is setting, despite what Ceferin says about it not being a precedent, because it demonstrably is, the very definition of a precedent, really, is that the onus does appear way more on FIFA to close these loopholes and do something about it and be proactive about it than it does with UEFA. I think I do believe UEFA or certainly Ceferin in his opposition to this, because it's consistent with a lot of his attitude towards FIFA. But we know what FIFA are basically just vampires that feed on money and have no care for so much of the integrity of the sport. That's how it certainly feels like when they're at their worst, doesn't it? So I wonder if in their kind of consistent commitment to the idea of growth at all costs, regardless of what you lose in these attempts to grow the sport that's already the biggest sport in the world, all over the world. They might think, actually, this is fun. Let's keep that loophole open, or not necessarily even have it as a loophole, but just decide that we're going to allow this in future, and then that creates a whole host of unknowns, doesn't it? I mean, that in theory then means that any game can be played anywhere, and that's obviously not going to be the case. You're not going to have teams turning into like a travelling circus where they're sort of Harlem Globetrotters where they never play in their own country. Like, that worst case scenario is extremely unlikely to happen.
Man United fans will be up for that.
Well, yeah.
If
try and do a sort of informal version of it. If you
could sign up now to Man United never playing a game in England ever again, would you be up for it?
Provided it wasn't on TV, yeah. Or actually, if they played in Perth, it would be through the night, wouldn't it? So, yeah.
So you'd be fine. You wouldn't
the shame, as I live my life, the shame is contained within the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., which is actually Perth prime time.
Well, you're doing quite a lot of shameful stuff at that time of the night normally anyway.
Yeah.
Well, he's too busy. Yeah. It's fine. It's win-win. But it opens up all these unknowns, doesn't it? Like, can clubs say no to it? What happens if a club doesn't want to do it? Like, Real Madrid are opposing it at the moment. Obviously, we know how fickle the wind can be, the particular wind that they blow can be, depending on whether it benefits them or not. But, if a club doesn't want to do this, what happens then?
Also, what's the revenue share model as well?
And is it worth
finally someone
asking
cost? That question?
Well, no, because that will ultimately set a precedent, wouldn't it? Because one of the reasons we've seen the NBA and NFL host regular season games outside the country is because everyone in that league is more than happy to do it, or more than happy to go over there and play, for example, their road games, quote unquote, because, say, I think it's the Jacksonville Jaguars play their home games at Tottenham or Wembley, for example. And they're more than happy to do that because they all get an equal share of whatever money they make from hosting those games overseas. And, recently there was one in Ireland, I think. So, they've done Germany and the UK as well. Football doesn't work like that, and specifically in La Liga as well, where essentially the clubs, are out for themselves because of the stranglehold that the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona have on their TV revenue. Are Como going to see the same amount as Milan?
Good question.
Like, almost certainly not. Girona, I mean, good luck. I suppose they probably don't need it with all the City cash.
Are the people of
it's Barcelona playing Villarreal.
Yeah.
Not Girona.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And are the people of Miami happy to come out and see Nicolas Pepe?
Yes.
It's not really about that, is it?
It's backfired.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to this.
To be fair to him, he's doing well, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the reason I mentioned Girona is because I've got it written here that FIFA had previously blocked a request from Relevant Sport, who I mentioned before, to stage a match in Miami between Barcelona and Girona back in 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when was the 39th game? That was a real while ago now.
It was a long time ago. Was it 2008, something like that?
I think I understand why people make the comparisons between the American sports and football. in this particular case, for the reasons you've partly stated already, Vish, I don't think it's that helpful. I just think the US have acknowledged, first of all, it's a completely different sporting culture anyway, but they've also acknowledged that they're such an insular sport.
Yeah.
That they have in the modern world, they have a kind of duty to kind of maximise what's potential for them.
It's almost the opposite, isn't it? There's an element of excitement taking that around the world because of
maybe
the
a bit of
insular
pride.
nature
I don't
of
know.
it.
Maybe American listeners will probably tell us we're talking absolute nonsense, which wouldn't be the first time. But I do think the sporting culture is just different. I think we could probably at least say that. But on this one, it does feel, again, to use the phrase I always use, the price of everything, the value of nothing, and sometimes people will occupy a kind of devil's advocate position where they'll say to, for example, you guys, well, if there's a load of really passionate supporters of Barcelona and Mexico City, for example, or Miami, why shouldn't they get to watch their team? And that's an argument people roll out there, isn't it? Why shouldn't Man United fans in China get a chance to watch a proper league game in China? And at the risk of sounding like I'm pulling the drawbridge up and being elitist about it, well, you chose to support Man United. They play in Manchester. You didn't choose to support a Chinese team. You chose to support Man United.
Yeah.
It wasn't inherently part of the trade-off that at some point you would get a competitive game in China, right? So I don't think that necessarily stands up as an argument either. I don't know what you guys think.
I'd love to be in a Martin Scorsese movie. But that doesn't mean everybody should move heaven and earth to allow that for me.
No, I think you're right. I think he should make a movie in Raynham. Finally.
Yeah.
So Jim...
There's actually a lot of drama going on there at the moment. There's a toxic waste fire that's been on fire for about 20 years.
Oh, yes.
A lot of drama going on there.
That's more of a Werner Herzog vibe.
It might be a bit more like Ken Loach, Mike Lee.
Yeah.
But it's a start.
Are you looking for a walk-on or more a main part?
No, I want a main part.
Yeah.
And I only want to do one take. I know everyone else is going to have to work around me to make me look good.
Okay,
This is
use
the
your story,
kind of, this is it. But this is kind of it, right?
Yeah.
That started off as a ridiculous comparison, but the idea of kind of shunting whole institutions to different continents in the middle of a league season where that massively impacts them in a negative way is verging on absurd.
Anything more from you on this, Vish, before I move on to slightly related but nevertheless equally as depressing news?
No, I mean, I wouldn't mind being in a Kevin Smith film.
Yeah.
That's probably more my vibe.
Yeah.
If that's, a remake of Mallrats. I'll be all over that.
Nice.
You could be...
Old Trafford mice.
Didn't Alanis Morissette play God in Dogma?
She did.
She
yeah.
did.
You could probably
yeah.
do that job if you wanted.
Like the Burger King man, I'll do that.
She's still
Dogma.
very good, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Must be great.
Anyway,
I think
we're digressing here, even for us.
there is
I'd love to be Alanis Morissette.
You've been jilted by enough lovers, haven't you?
Yeah, get over it, love.
Well, been dumped.
There's another way to look
It's
at
not
this.
ironic. Leave it.
The other way to look at this is obviously, Vish, you and I, we support big Premier League clubs. Sometimes you drop an absolute fortune on a player, and that's really, really exciting and it's fun. And
Pepe, for example,
yeah,
the
exactly,
aforementioned.
Nicolas Pepe, yeah. And on the day, that was excellent. But it's a really exciting feeling, and that's only possible because of the massive revenues that the Premier League bring in. So it could be the case that if the Premier League is smart about this, we could start playing games in Spain.
Yeah.
How'd you like this?
Yeah.
Like just sort of encroach on everyone else's territory.
Yeah.
Just play a game in Munich.
Like a modern...
we run things differently. We're not so stupid. We spend that much on Nick Walter. We're coming for your money as well.
You got a real bee in your bonnet about Bayern Munich still, as an Arsenal fan.
It's kind of subconscious actually.
Yeah.
I can almost feel my ancestors going to turn in their grave at the idea of, an even bigger, richer British Empire. And I'm all for it.
Just based around football.
Yeah.
Well, they made the football kick off on time. Hey, so what you like about them? That'll be the new refrain. All right. It's boring and it's depressing, and you've got to talk about it. But speaking of which, in slightly related news, and something that does also threaten to tear at the very fabric of the sport that we all love, which is why it's off the back of the last story. Oman manager Carlos Queiroz, formerly of Alex Ferguson's delicious teat at Man United, for those who listen regularly you remember, and presumably Florentino Perez's teat at Real Madrid. I'd like to know which teat he preferred. Presumably it's Ferguson's, more loving.
Yeah,
less transactional.
That's a
I thought
bitter
you meant
milk.
left or right. Jeez.
Oh yeah. No, I think Ferguson's would have been less transactional as a teat for him to suckle on.
Yeah.
Compared to Perez.
Yeah, Perez is very, very short-term benefit.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Ferguson would nourish you for a lot longer.
Absolutely. I think there's a chance now that if Carlos Queiroz went back to Alex Ferguson's home, knocked on the door at a convenient time, Ferguson might give him another little suck.
Yeah, Yeah, from his favourite chair.
And his favourite nipple. Anyway, Carlos Queiroz has raised concerns over the 72-year-old Carlos Queiroz, so we've just done dirty there, has raised concerns over the favourable match conditions given to Saudi Arabia and Qatar in their Asian Football Confederation World Cup qualifiers. Now, do you guys have any idea just the absolute intensity of the AFC qualification process for the World Cup? Right, if you don't, I'm just going to give you a little quick rundown. AFC qualification is 5 rounds long and then an inter-confederation playoff. The campaign for some of these teams who are members of the AFC started in October 2023.
It's essentially a tournament in itself, isn't it?
Basically, yeah. And that we're now going into the most recent phase in which 2 teams, I think, can qualify automatically and 2 can go into this inter-confederation playoff. Now, inexplicably and for no reason been given whatsoever, Saudi Arabia and Qatar have been handed home advantage for their games in the 2 mini groups, with, as I said, the winners of each qualify. The decision was announced in June without revealing any selection criteria. Indonesia, Iraq, Oman and the UAE expressed interest in hosting themselves or have requested neutral venues and have also asked for transparency and fairness in the decision-making process, none of which has been forthcoming. In addition to Saudi Arabia automatically being given host status for their games, they've also been given 6 days between the games, while their opponents in some cases have had to play within 72 hours of their first game. Carlos Queiroz said, what can we say? We have to play at the home of one of the teams that's competing. They put the Saudis in Saudi and the Qataris in Qatar. If they can't see that something's wrong with this, then who are the players and coaches to make comments? Basically, what he's saying is this fucking whole thing stinks to high heaven, especially given that Saudi and Qatar have put a huge amount of money in FIFA's coffers in terms of hosting events and all the rest of it. I mean, it's remarkable how much, if anything, if the lesson can be learned from the fact that Gianni Infantino is spending a lot of time with Donald Trump. It's just that you can do this stuff in plain sight and just not care that anyone notices.
It's incredible that such a lack of transparency can make things actually very clear. Exactly. There's more to this as well. So Indonesia have written to FIFA and the AFC about this because the referee in their game against Saudi Arabia is from Kuwait. And they've said, we want a referee who is truly neutral, possibly from Europe or somewhere else, someone who has no stake in the region. On top of that, Indonesia were due to play Kuwait in a friendly on the 5th of September, but that was just cancelled without a reason, just no reason given. So their preparations have been entirely disrupted as well by essentially from another team in the region. And it's astonishing.
Vish, is it beneath FIFA to essentially try to engineer for 2 of their favoured nations, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, to qualify for the World Cup next year at all costs?
I'm more in keeping with Jim's idea that I appreciate the clearness of the lack of transparency.
Yeah,
because even I think a month before it was actually announced, journalists in the region were reporting that look, it's just going to be in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Yeah, and we know that to be true.
You know what it reminds me of? It's when the 2 Russian fellas from the Salisbury poisoning did that interview, and they were asked about it. Did you come over here and poison British citizens on British soil? And they were like, no, no, we were just here for the cathedrals. No.
Jim's nodding there for our audio listeners. And throwing the 2 fingers up.
So in other sports, it is quite common for qualifiers like this to be held in one country, so it's self-contained and over and done with as quickly as possible. But the nefariousness of holding it in 2 countries, each of those countries, the front runners, certainly as far as the teams and countries and organisations that you want to pander to.
Yeah. One who've recently had a World Cup and one who have got one coming up.
You haven't had to qualify for the last one, and you won't have to qualify for the next one, so make the effort for this one. That's what I'd be saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go on. Show us how much money you've really got. How many players are you going to naturalise now?
I hate it when there's no football because it really does make us come face to face with all the terrible shit that's happening in the background, like a kind of staticky anxiety when you can just put it off a bit because there's an amazing Premier League game happening or something, but we have to go face to face with the demons on weeks like this.
I don't want to visit Rwanda.
I was going to go with cleaning the oven, but Rwanda's better.
It's wholly depressing, isn't it? Depressing. Like, I feel sorry for Carlos Queiroz. He's had a good record at getting teams to qualify for the World Cup. He said himself, if he gets Oman there, it'll be It'll be his biggest achievement, particularly, I mean, certainly in international football, of course. I think he's going to struggle for the reasons that he stated. But poor old Carlos and Oman, and also poor old Indonesia, Iraq, and the UAE as well.
It'd be
which
amazing
you wouldn't
for
find
any
me
of those
saying
teams to
in many
qualify.
other contexts.
Well, yeah,
I have to
quite.
say.
Is this proof that FIFA will do anything to get Hervé Renard at a tournament because he's current Saudi Arabia manager? So
he is. He doesn't need the help. He's got a huge amount of success under his belt, Jim.
Wow,
he knows.
Seems like he's getting the help.
He's getting it regardless.
Great amount of pretty privilege that we're like, oh, he's nice, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He just flicked.
Be good to have him there.
He just flicked his hair and they went home game.
Yeah,
simple as that. All right. Coming up after this, no more teenage wasteland for Nico O'Reilly.
Okay, just a final question then, and I suspect you'll say this isn't within your job remit either, but should Bukayo Saka be nailed on in Gareth Southgate's starting 11 at the World Cup?
Oh, I would hope so. It's not within my remit, but if it was within my remit, absolutely yes.
Who are you playing with him up front then?
For England, I don't know who would put up front with him.
Kane is an obvious kind of starting point.
Well, I'm just thinking, Kane and Saka, I mean, they do, just trying to think of formulation, that probably Kane and Saka does work best, yeah.
It's like listening to an episode of this show, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Jack's Encyclopedia specifically.
The thing about that is, that's Keir Starmer for anyone listening who doesn't quite know. It wasn't Zippy from Rainbow. He likes football.
Yeah.
He actually likes
That's the mad thing
football.
about it, yeah. He's just convinced himself that there's a wrong answer there when there isn't.
Yeah. So frightened all the time of everything. So it is very much like the Ramble. Guys, welcome back to the Football Ramble. Vish, Jim with me here today. England squad update. I didn't get a chance to talk about the England squad last week because I was away and you guys did it on an exclusive YouTube video, which I bloody enjoyed. But the news is that Nico O'Reilly of the Manchester City parish has been handed his first call up to the England senior side in news that will surprise absolutely no one. Hitherto uncontacted tribes in the Amazon rainforest will not be surprised to know that Reece James has withdrawn from a squad through injury.
You know what the injury is, though?
It's a shin injury. A shin gash. Yeah.
Shin gash is new.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite encouraging because it's a flesh injury rather than like a joint or muscle injury.
Yeah, I see what you're going with there, but it sounds like one of the worst injuries.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
A gash, a flesh wound gash sounds worse. It weirdly sounds worse than an ACL.
It does.
Because anything can be explained away with initialisms or acronyms, you know, but shin gash does sound bad. We wish Reece James all the best, of course. Now, the 6'4" O'Reilly started his career as kind of some kind of attacking midfielder, kind of hybrid midfielder type player, but has been converted into a left back by Pep Guardiola because, of course, he fucking has. He's kind of obviously came onto the scene last season, played in a lot of cup games, but he's really started to properly break through at Man City now, hasn't he? Started 7 of City's games this season across all competitions, and so he's been called up. Thoughts, gents?
I think it's quite exciting. I think he's earned it as well, and I think his profile as an attacking midfielder, I don't think is over because he has got such sort of quality on the ball, and his attacking contributions to Man City have been really good. I thought he was really good against Arsenal at the Emirates, despite him taking 2 throws that didn't actually make it onto the pitch, which was quite weird. So
that's a testament to how
probably
high
have
you
someone
rate him.
else doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was very, very good otherwise. It's interesting how left back does seem to be an incubator position for a lot of very good players. Gareth Bale, Bukayo Saka, Bastian Schweinsteiger all started as left backs, which seems ridiculous now. And he does look like the sort of profile to me where this is very much a temporary solution to sort of get him into the team. But I think he's earned it. I really, really do. I think he's not looked out of place in that position while also looking like it's not the place that he's going to settle. And I think he's a really sort of technically competent and already quite mature player.
Yeah, I think he's outstanding. I think if he was playing for any other side where he was getting more consistent game time, I reckon he'd already be in an England squad. The irony there being that it probably wouldn't be as a left back because he would be entrusted. Well, he would have the opportunity to play in a more natural position, or certainly the position he played growing up, and he was reared in. He has everything, I think. Like his composure on the ball amid all the technical excellence is one of a kind, really. And it's interesting you mentioned the breeding ground of left back, because it does feel slightly different for him in particular, because the system that he's playing in, probably the reason why Guardiola was like, you can be left back, is not just because he's left-footed, but because left backs on Man City have to be able to play in the centre of midfield. kind of in that Miles
It's a
Lewis-Skelly
nominal
role.
position, yeah, very
I
much
suppose,
so.
Skelly would be a recent example of that as well, wouldn't it?
And similar, but will probably very likely to not be a left back for all of his career, you would expect.
And you do wonder if because of the way other teams are playing at the sharp end of club and international football, if that is just the way it is now. So you could even look at Szoboszlai at Liverpool to a point. Like he's gone kind of moved the other way by design because of Alexander-Arnold's move from Liverpool, but they want a midfielder, someone who's capable of breaking lines with passes, but also carrying the ball forward, to be that position from deep and almost not be picked up when they're able to assume that position when his team has the ball. I think he should already be going to the World Cup, if that's not too mad to say, because I think he is that good. I don't think it's a position that England are particularly well stocked in, particularly with Lewis Hall's injury, who I think is a very consistent player. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tuchel gets him on the training ground and he's like, this guy's class.
Yeah.
You're going to stay here.
He's not the tallest left back in the squad, of course. Any worries about his height?
Imagine if we put him on top of Dan Burn.
You've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, then Nico O'Reilly, and then Dan Burn. And it's like that Monty Python sketch with the working class, the middle class, and the upper class person, and they're all different heights. That's basically what I couldn't get out of my mind when I saw it being called up. I did enjoy all your points about how good a player he is, though, Vish, which I entirely agree. So Szoboszlai's really interesting one because he's like a Swiss Army knife. Like they've had to accommodate like different things because of injuries and unavailability of players and stuff like that. So Szoboszlai's been at right back, he's been in the middle of midfield, he's played in the hole as well for Liverpool. And I think it is just part of a wider trend, isn't it, for players just being flexible because systems are so different now and all the rest of it. So I think he's well worth his call up. I think you said he was technically competent earlier, Jim. I think it's probably doing him a bit of a disservice. I think he's a lot more technically proficient than that.
I just meant across the board in terms of his positional sense. So I don't think he's a natural left back, but he's playing there and he looks like one.
He doesn't even try and hide it, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Don't even hide it anymore.
The contempt. And then also we do actually also understand that Thomas Tuchel is applying quite an avant-garde approach to picking squads at the moment.
Yeah.
So perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised. One player left out of the England squad though through injury is Cole Palmer. But the good news for Cole is it's been confirmed that he's now successfully trademarked the term Cold Palmer with the UK government's Intellectual Property Office. It means no one can use Palmer's cold nickname for commercial purposes without his permission. So a bit more detail on this because it genuinely is absolutely incredible. Palmer's application includes a list of products he intends to sell using the trademarked term, including, but not limited to, soaps, bath salts, food snacks, razor blades, mobile phone covers, drones.
Drones is amazing.
Underwater vehicles, stationery, toys, Christmas crackers and teddy bears. Now, before we bring you guys in, I'm going to give him teddy bears, toys, stationery, mobile phone covers seems fine, food snacks at a stretch seems fine. I think we have to depart at drones and underwater vehicles given the state of the world at the moment.
Yeah, soaps and bath salts are also quite weird. I'm presuming that's not the drug bath salts, but who knows?
No.
Because Cole Palmer, I don't think there's ever been a footballer who's sort of more like a side character in Arrested Development. Just baffling decisions left, right and centre, and all of them kind of really funny. Underwater vehicles, what is that about?
I don't know.
Does it mean like tiny sort of remote control submarines?
Yeah.
Sort of like an underwater version of a drone? That's kind of that's where my mind goes on that.
It feels to me that they've just said to Cole, and what do you want to do with this, Cole? And he's just gone, submarine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What haven't I got? Submarine.
Food. I like food. Cool.
But you know what? I watched the
razor blades. Where does that come in?
I watched it's the best a man can get.
Hang on. He was just on the phone in his bathroom, wasn't he?
Yes, looking around
when this happened, and he likes Christmas.
Little toy submarine in his bath.
Oh, my teddy bear's
a
wet.
lot of this is bath related.
Yeah. Joe, I watched a documentary called Enemy in the Woods on the iPlayer, and it's fucking horrible, but it's amazing, and it's about a load of Ukrainian soldiers in that tragic conflict in Ukraine defending the line against Russian drones, and it's honestly like a Black Mirror episode, but it's real, right? And I genuinely think the only thing that could make it more depressing is if somehow someone was killed by a Cole Palmer branded drones. I mean, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
On Friday, Marcus, Vish and Jim spoke about the England squad at length over on the YouTube channel, as I mentioned. To check that out, do go and search Football Ramble on YouTube or hit the link in the show notes and hit subscribe while you're there as well to make sure you never miss a video. I really enjoyed it. I wish I was part of it, which for me is the barometer of how much I enjoy something or not. So there we go. All right, coming up after this, a rodent has been spotted at Old Trafford. On to the main event, Vish. Strap yourself in. Lock the doors, everyone. He's not going anywhere. During Manchester United's game against Sunderland on Saturday, a Sunderland fan spotted a mouse in the away end and caught it in a plastic cup. There really is no other way of saying that. So I'm just going to hand straight over to you, Vish. I saw the photos. It was horrific. The lady looked genuinely quite upset. Would you like to speak on behalf of the club and apologise to her directly?
No, I won't be apologising. I will be doing my best Starmer impersonation. I think fundamentally...
Well, you're going to play the mouse up top with Harry Kane?
What the funny thing about this, well, certainly like what Ineos have done since they've come into Manchester United, is that it's almost like they've watched Moneyball and
not emptied the bins.
Well, yeah, and just like taken watched Moneyball, not really got like the underlying point behind it, or like should have read the book on what Moneyball actually entails.
Yeah, I love that bit about Billy Bean. Yeah, Billy,
yeah.
Just a quick word. I love that bit about you letting the mice run everywhere. That was brilliant.
But yeah, totally. Like just not really understanding that to find value where they haven't previously looked for value, it isn't just pertaining to completely cutting costs, and to believing you're making it up in the aggregate when you're just making a succession of really poor short-term decisions. And when I saw that photo, I thought, fucking hell, he's watched Ratatouille as well, hasn't he? We don't need to train our chefs. If we get a little rodent in the hat.
Just one chef?
Yeah.
So you enjoyed them showing Ratatouille in the concourse at Anfield. Would you like the real live action version at Old Trafford?
What's happened with the garter? Oh, and it's run up his leg.
Yeah. Well, another way to look at it is Everton visit Old Trafford on the 24th of November. Jack Grealish is in very good form. The idea
frightened.
that mouse is everywhere will put him off his game.
He's very, very frightened, specifically of mouse. What are you frightened of, Jack? Mouse.
Rodents. What?
Yeah. I think Tuchel has got like the scales weighing up there. He's looked at one hand and he's gone 4 Premier League assists already, started really well. On the other hand, mouse.
Scared of mouse.
It's like a Roy Keane tried to sign Robbie Savage. I can't be signing that. I think it's like that. Look, it is funny. It is objectively funny, and it will never not be funny that Man United are in this state. But we should be mindful at least of the fact that, these allegations that quote unquote toilets have been left unclean and bins unemptied. There's also been reports that all those who wear club tracksuits, with the exception of players and first team staff, now have to wash their own kit. Staff shortages is the reason for all this stuff, and we should be mindful of the fact that the reason there's staff shortages is because a lot of hard-working people who care a lot about their job and cared a lot about the club have lost their job. But there's talk as well that an under-13s team at Man United had to borrow socks and shorts from Everton in order to fulfil their fixture last week as well. I mean, it's baffling beyond belief that anyone connected with the ownership at the club thinks this is, at the very least, not going to completely undermine any cost-saving measure, because the fucking negative implications from the PR point of view of how much of a laughingstock they're becoming.
Well, whenever any organisation cuts costs in the way that Manchester United have, there are naturally going to be gaps around expertise and also just the day-to-day running of any organisation. And so, little things like they're not little things, but I think it was last month that the women's team travelled and lost their boots or forgot their boots, so staff had to go out and to a local shop and buy like 15 pairs of boots.
And the women's team have been tremendously disrespected from day one by Jim Radcliffe, not just financially, but also kind of philosophically and mentally as well.
Well, he said he's literally, he's been on the record about his how he doesn't feel they're relevant to the Manchester United that he perceives, the Manchester United that he has bought, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, and he seems unwilling to correct that on the record as well. He's been fairly consistent in his kind of indifference to them. With all this,
well, I don't really think it's indifference. I think it's just a superiority and stubbornness befitting of a man who's that rich and that out of touch with what this actually means to people. That's why it's so. I mean, it's funny. You have to wear two hats doing this show because it is, like I said, it is actually funny, but it's also underpinned, like all great comedies, with a real soupçon of tragedy underneath it
absolutely.
as well, affecting real people's lives. With the exception of Vish, who I don't actually care about. I think he should take his medicine honourably.
I mean, I'm not in favour of any of this.
No, you're not. I know that. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, the youth team having to borrow socks and shorts from Everton is just that must look appalling. When people are actually there watching Man United play in another team's kit because it's just so poorly run. It's these little details that make it just
and let me
look
give you
like,
a real world example of how this ostensibly is a cost saving exercise, right? Because he sees the balance sheet. But that's a really good example of how that will unquestionably within time completely backfire. Because if you are someone who has got a really talented son or daughter, and in this case it'll be a son at Manchester United in the academy at under 13 level, right? Back in the day, that used to mean something.
Yeah.
That was a source of incredible pride. And if you are the most talented 12-year-old kid in the country and you're relying on your parents to make decisions for you, and your parents are seeing that shit happening, what's the chance they're going to want to stay at Man United? What does that mean long-term financially?
There is a perfect opportunity for those kids to just nip into the Everton dressing room and go, can we stay with you?
Yeah, we'd rather stay here, thanks.
I think we got away with it. They've not done a head count. I don't think they'll miss us.
Yeah, they've cut back on a lot of safeguarding measures, so you probably won't notice. Yeah.
Every club, though, they presumably didn't have to wash the socks.
Just give them, but you've got to take them and wash them. And you listen.
Got to give them
Vish,
back. No, they would take them back.
Okay.
If you were Everton bringing your staff to Carrington, you'd be like, look, they could nick this stuff and sell it because that's what the man upstairs wants them to do.
Yeah.
So just keep your on. Let's start valuables.
Or put them on the staff because I turned the heating off.
Let's see some entrepreneurial spirit from our young players.
That is the long and short of it, isn't it?
Put him in the
Don't do
workhouse.
that. He will do that.
Man United find even in international.
He's going to turn into like a modern day Fagin.
Man United have a source of incredible mirth during the season, but even in the international week, you still find ways. Arguably, it's worse.
Incredible.
International week, they find new, ever evolving ways of plumbing the depths. But so that's not surprising. Before we go, just want to sign off with this because this really did tickle me. Former Manchester United player Steve Bruce has been sacked by Blackpool. Now that's not the bit that tickled me. Along with his coaches Steve Agnew and Stephen Clements, Steve Bruce will be replaced by Stephen Dobby and Steve Banks until a successor is appointed.
Until a different Steve is identified.
Right, we've got all the Steves. Right, the statement itself is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Right? Blackpool Football Club can announce the departure of head coach Steve Bruce, assistant head coach Steve Agnew, and first team coach Steve Clements. The club would like to thank them for their efforts and wishes them all the very best for the future. Steve Dobby and Steve Banks will take charge of the first team matters till a permanent appointment is confirmed.
Steve.
The best Steve.
A second Steve has hit the dugout.
A fifth Steve?
Yeah.
Fine. In one statement. Tell me this now, right? One statement, 5 Steves. That's never been bettered.
No.
The Steve to statement ratio is off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like some sort of weird dance troupe where they're all called Steve as a gimmick.
It has to be.
Other than that, I can't see how anyone's making a statement with more Steves in it.
Maybe Jim Ratcliffe will find out at some point that employing people by the name of Steve is actually much cheaper and start absolutely bombarding Old Trafford with Steves.
Well, you save number on the back of shirts, wouldn't it?
You would.
Save the prices on the back for the back of shirts, yeah.